As part of this Kristallnacht commemoration, we concentrated, of course, on the importance of memory, so that future generations can begin to understand what happened to the Jewish people and the attempt to eradicate the Jewish people during the Second World War. We must be vigilant so that the decades-long promise of never again continues into the future for Jews and other oppressed peoples. My wife Judy and I had the opportunity more than 20 years ago to discover artifacts from the Shoah in France, which we were able to obtain and bring to Pittsburgh. These artifacts are now on display at the Holocaust Center here in Pittsburgh, and certainly serve as valuable educational tools for young Pittsburgh students and for adults as well, as seeing the real artifact is always more powerful than seeing a copy or a film. During one of the many trips I made to France, I was invited with friends to visit a chateau, which I didn't realize at the time was on what is called the ligne de démarcation, in English, the line of demarcation. To explain the location, you must know that after the Germans occupied France in 1940, they divided the country between occupied France in the north and what they called Free France in the south. Free France became known as Vichy, named after the small town where the government of the so-called Free France was located and was operated under the French Army Marshal Pétain. In 1940, when the Germans divided France, and if you look at the map, you can see the blue being the free zone, and the line between it and the occupied zone is the line of demarcation. So it ran east to west across the middle of the country, and then turned south to run inland parallel to the Atlantic coast, so that the coast and important inland agricultural areas remained occupied by the Germans. This brings us to the chateau which we visited, which sat on the line running north and south from the coast. If you look at the line, you can see near the bottom, or not far from where it touches Spain, there's a village called Hagetmo, and that's where I went to see the chateau. During the visit, being shown the chateau was in itself fascinating. Each room has been maintained by the family owners in accordance with the style of a particular epoch. One room was decorated in the style of Louis Napoleon, and another held weapons and souvenirs from France's military involvement in Mexico. An owner of the chateau in the mid-1800s was one of the French military leaders at the Battle of Puebla during the French-Mexican War. His banners joined the other historical items in the chateau, even though they represented an extraordinary defeat of France by the Mexicans, which is still celebrated. The victory is celebrated on the Cinco de Mayo. As our visit was coming to an end, the family wanted to show us to the top or attic area, as the owner's father had been a talented miniaturist. He painted miniature paintings, and they wanted to show us his workshop and his work. As we admired the tiny paintings, which were remarkable, I saw just out of the corner of my eye a very unusual object, a large sign written in German and French, warning Jews not to cross the line of demarcation. The sign, in French and German, chillingly described the type of person who would be considered a Jew. This is a rough translation of the sign. Warning to Jews. It is forbidden for Jews to cross the line of demarcation in the occupied zone of France. The following people are considered Jews: those who belong to or used to belong to the Jewish religion, or who have more than 2 Jewish ancestors in the generation of their grandparents. Grandparents are considered Jews if they belong to or used to belong to the Jewish religion. Any infraction discovered will be punished by imprisonment or a fine, and property may also be confiscated. The sign states that anyone who matched this description of a Jew could not cross the line of demarcation, beyond which was the route to possible escape and freedom. We asked the owner about how he came to have the sign, and he told us that over the decades his family would store things in the attic rather than throwing anything out. He explained that this sign had been placed on the line of demarcation, which ran just in front of their house, and it had been placed there by the Germans as a warning to Jews. And when the war ended, his father removed the sign and placed it in their attic where it had remained. He also told us, in addition, that when he was 14-year-old during the occupation, he had a job of letting someone know when the lady in the house on the other side of the demarcation line had her kitchen curtain open or closed, as this was a signal to indicate if it was safe or not to try an illegal crossing of the line. When we left, I told the friend with whom I had come that this song belonged in a museum, but I couldn't just ask them, please give me that sign, which had been sitting in their attic. My friend said he'd get it for me. He was certain he would give it to me for free because no one would want to profit from the Holocaust. It was close to true. We were asked to pay the family's taxes in exchange for the sign. They didn't profit from it, but they were relieved of a small debt. I then had the sign boxed up, shipped to the United States. Here, customs charged us no fees because of what they learned were the contents of the box. And then it sat in our house, our game room, for several months. Frankly, it was unnerving to wake up every day, see the sign, and be jolted by the warning to Jews. This went on until the sign found its home in the Holocaust Center and out of our house. After that chance discovery, I decided to see if there were other important artifacts that I could find in France. Our friend was helpful again. He kept us an eye out for things that might be of interest. The first item that I'll show you is a form used by the Vichy government to require registration of Jews in the so-called Free France Vichy area, so that Vichy would be able to quickly round up all Jews for deportation and ultimately extermination. As you can see, it's a form which also has a notice to Jews to be filled out by all Jews living anywhere in Vichy. The next one is a Star of David. This Star of David in yellow harkens back to the medieval ghettos in Europe. A few centuries later, during the Nazi occupation, every Jew in France was required to wear this star visibly attached to his external clothing, his jacket or his coat, so that it would serve the same purpose as the registration form, which you just saw a moment ago, to degrade, humiliate, and terrify Jews, assuring they could not escape. The end result of being arrested by the Nazis would be imprisonment in a concentration camp. The prisoners wore uniforms like this one while awaiting execution. I was able to locate this actual uniform used in the concentration camps in the city of Auch, which is a regional capital in the French province of Algiers, not from the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain. This is a bowl which was used by the prisoners in the concentration camps. What you see now are two broadsheets from the 1870s of the song known as Le Juif Errant, the Wandering Jew. This song repeats the anti-Semitic theme throughout Europe at the time, that Jews were condemned to wander without a homeland for having rebuffed or struck Jesus on the way to the crucifixion. The wandering Jew and other anti-Semitic tropes repeated over centuries were part of the basis for the deep-rooted hatred of Jews, which resulted in Kristallnacht in Germany, which we are commemorating today. When we showed these broadsheets to our friends in France, they were horrified. They explained that this was a cheery-sounding childhood song they had all learned without ever understanding its significance. I also want to mention the small town we visit often. That, of course, before the pandemic, I could say we visited often. And it has a small Holocaust memorial, which was erected by a group led by teachers at a well-regarded agricultural high school in the area. It's interesting that this high school, this agricultural high school, is run by the same Roman Catholic religious community, the Salian brothers, which run our local Central Catholic High School. The teachers started an exchange program also with Israeli agricultural students. These teachers did a lot to raise awareness of the activities of the Vichy government in Gers, this region of France, during the war. And they had worked with the mayor to dedicate this town's Holocaust memorial, their own small contribution to memory and to never again. Thank you.